Hello, hello. How we doing? Good morning, Matthew. If Matic wants it, Matic can get it. Absolutely, 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 he can. Finn, James, my brother. Hello, hello. Let's go, Slew Dog. Good to see you all this morning. How you doing? How you doing? How are you doing? Yeah, I'm liking this morning. We'll talk about it in a little more detail in a minute here, but I'm liking this from Onana. I'm liking it. Hello from South Africa. Yes. Yes, my brother. Matic will lob Onana tomorrow. Oof, no. You know what? Marcus Stevenson, Rohan, Naveen, Agrassi, Marcus. Everybody, thank you. Fireworks. I know. I like this. This is good stuff, man. This is what it's all about. Where has this been? You know what? Like Sunday, right? Everybody was complaining about how friendly the derby was. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? Do you want them to sit there and, like this, or what? Like I prefer this. I prefer this. I prefer this. I'm okay with this. This I'm okay with. That's okay. It is what it is, man. It is what it is, man. Yeah, smash a like. Yes, appreciate that. Thank you all for being here. And while you're here, while we're getting going, please, yes, smash, destroy, atomic bomb the like button for me, please. Anything you can do, Yeah, the quote, even the original quote from Onana was taken probably more, when I read into it further, a little more out of context, but Matic responded to it, and then, excuse me, I'm gonna sneeze. Onana has responded back again, and I gotta say, here's what I like about it. Okay, I'm gonna read you this thing from Onana here. Actually, let's just pull it up. He says, I would never be disrespectful to another player, to another club. I would never be disrespectful to another club. All right, just remember that line. I would never be disrespectful to another club. We know that tomorrow will be a difficult game against a strong opponent. We focus on preparing a performance to make our fans proud. At least I've lifted trophies with the greatest club in the world. Some can't say the same. So he says, I would never be disrespectful to another club. And then immediately, 2 sentences later, is mad disrespectful. I love it. I love it. I honestly love it. I love that. I absolutely love that. That's I like Matic, mind you, but it is what it is, It's football at the end of the day. He's the opposition. So it's fine with me. I love that. I mean, that's perfect. That's great. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Nothing wrong with that at all. I am absolutely here for Onana not disrespecting and then immediately being disrespectful. I'm here for it. I'm 100% here for it. That is the type of shit you would love to see in football. That is it. Didn't Matic win the Europa League with United? No, he arrived the year after. So Matic arrived in the second season for Jose, and we hadn't won it. We didn't win a trophy during that whole period of time. From there through all League under Solskjaer's period of time, we were close. Obviously close. We made a FA Cup final against Chelsea. We made the Europa League final, and we lost both of those. So, yeah, 2 finals, but no trophies in that 5 or 6 year period, whatever 5-year period that it was. So hey, it is what it is, man. This is how it should be before big European games. None of this lovey-dovey friends. Like I'm saying, people were just complaining on Monday about, or Sunday, you know, about how friendly the derby was and all of that. And, well, it's, you know, this is good. I mean, it's prime Barclays, and it's not even in England. So it's all good, man. It's all good. I like the response. I like the response. You just gotta perform now. That's all. Just perform now. You know, that's it. You know, but this is yeah, we'll go to that in a second. We'll talk a little bit more about Onana and Matic a bit later. But I like it. I'm okay with it. There's a little more to it than that, in my opinion. There's a little more to it. Onana talking a little more freely. I think there's a little bit more in that, in terms of the potential, what it means for Onana's long-term career at United. But hey, I'm with it. So yeah, 3-0 win and Onana to save a PK. Oh, look, it's the current top of the leaderboard guy. One of one. Let's go. Stop the count. Matthews, stop the count. This is it. 1 of 1. He needs to back this with a world-class performance for sure. Let's get back to that a little later. Because I have a few things. Here's the teaser. Here it is. I have a few things I want to say about Onana's future. And I kind of talked about them in yesterday's transfer priorities video. Just a little bit of a hint. But yeah. So here's all the things I want to discuss today. I want to talk about Liam Delap, as there's obviously been a big briefing in the last few days. I say a briefing because everybody kind of came out all of a sudden in a 5-day period and says, Delap is the top target for United. Delap's the top target for United. And all of that. Not that that's wrong, but just I want to explain it in a bit more. I want to talk about the other transfers. You know, I did that video yesterday. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. I'm going to look at some of the summary of what I looked at the end there, so we can debate it and discuss it, because obviously it's one open for quite a lot of debate, I think. And then I want to talk about some of the youth getting chances, why Kamason, Kukonki, and Moorhouse are in the squad, even though they're probably not going to play, what that means, why we kind of are doing this thing where it's just different youth all the time. I want to talk through that and explain some of the reasoning behind why they do that as well. We'll go back to this Onana thing. I want to talk about his future and how it ties into the keepers and the potential for United to sign a keeper this summer, because the potential is there. And then we can just yap and chat for a little bit, because we haven't done too much of a yap recently. But I would like to get to that. So on the Delap thing, okay, obviously we've kind of known, we've been talking about for some time how, you know, we obviously kind of know. I think I said in the video last week when I was talking about targets and things, I said, you know, it was kind of like Osimhen and Delap, from my understanding, was not like A, B, it was sort of like A and A. And it was kind of like A and A. Like, it wasn't like Delap's the backup or either way. It's just like there's just two different scenarios, two different worlds that we live in. The situation with Osimhen is this, okay? And you have to separate things out when you talk about, you know, top targets. I always like to explain things beyond just top target, you know, and really give a reasoning and a breakdown of why. And what I can say is this: Osimhen is viewed from a footballing standpoint as the best possible player they could sign this summer. That's like available in the market, right? Osimhen is viewed as the best player they could sign in the market this summer. Understand that, okay? So when I talk about it from a perspective of he's a, you know, a top target, it's a little bit of a different perspective than when it comes out in other areas. And I want to kind of explain kind of the decision, the process that things go through, and some of the differences here. Like I said, usually when I'm talking about something, when I see it being reported, that's good to me, because it means it's making it through a different phase of decision making. You understand? Like there's scouting, there's the analysis, there's looking at the targets, there's looking at the lists, and then it has to go through like, I call it committees. It's not really committees, but if you want to think of it like that, it has to go through like committees of like, okay, who can we actually go for? Who do we have the money for? Who can we pursue? And who are we going to reach for first? At that point, that's usually when it starts getting reported, in the way that you're seeing with Delap. So, so example is when I talk about like the midfield or something like that, and I've got all these names, and we've heard not none of them, but not a lot of them in the media recently. For me, I look at that and I think, okay, since none of them are being reported yet, I would suspect that none of them have reached a stage where they're having discussions about all of these players and have decided on who to pursue and are making those contacts, because when that happens, that's when when it starts getting around into media. So there's a few different ways of looking at it. So from an Osimhen perspective, essentially, from a purely football perspective, he is viewed as the best possible striker they could sign this summer. I can say that. Obviously, I wouldn't say there's always 100% consensus on anything within a club, but I can say that that's a strong view of many, or of certain people. And however, there's a few specific problems with that. Number one is his wages, right? He's got big wages. He's on big wages. United don't want to pay $350,000 for a week for anybody. I understand that. I'm with that. I get that. I think it's reasonable to not want to pay those kind of wages. Here's the thing, though. Nobody's going to give Osimhen those wages in Europe. Nobody is giving him those wages in Europe. So he has two choices in the matter. One is to go to Saudi. He's had conversations with people in Saudi. There are people in Saudi who believe that he's coming to them. I can say that. There are people in Saudi that believe Osimhen is joining them this summer. And they've even been using that to kind of try and recruit other players to the Saudi league and attract others by saying, well, we're probably going to have Osimhen coming in talks with other agents and people like that. They've been trying to use that as a means to recruit and attract other players. So there is that aspect to it where they will give him the money. So that's a part of it. Now, at the same time, I've heard on my side a bit, and there was an article from Rob Dawson at ESPN yesterday that I think should not go under the radar on this, because Rob Dawson is a very, very, very good journalist. And I think he finally started getting a lot of his credit last summer when he was breaking the Ashworth story and a few other things. And he was very early alongside myself on Lenny Yoro, on United's pursuit of Lenny Yoro. And he says that Osimhen would prefer to go to England or Juventus. Okay? That would be his preference. So, again, you have to look at it from the perspective of he's not going to get those wages in England or Juventus. So he's going to have to make the decision, do I go to Saudi and get my money, which is on offer, which is there, which is mostly lined up, frankly, or compromise to play somewhere that I want to play. And I don't think that is as settled as it appears at the moment from everything that I've heard. I don't think it's as settled as it appears. So the point on this is that, well, United without Champions League and without some huge sales, they don't have anything to offer to Osimhen. If Napoli don't want to come in for Garnacho and we're not making Champions League come summer, that option doesn't exist. And so that will eliminate or narrow down Osimhen's choices to say, well, I'll probably just go to Saudi, maybe even for a short time and then come back. But it's not off the table. It's not eliminated. It's so conditional on some things happening to where he's obviously got to have to look at it and say, well, what if that option doesn't show up? I need somewhere to go because he's not going back to Napoli, right? So it's just these things are conditional, but Osimhen is rated extremely highly, and I think we need to do it. I think we need to figure out how to do it. I'll be honest. I really, Here's my challenge for you in talking about the striker thing. Okay. Because obviously now we've had the whole thing, Liam Delap top target, all that, and that is correct. He is the most attainable target available that we can get with a relegation clause, 40 million. It's a flat fee. Wages won't be too crazy. We can afford that deal. We can afford it. It's doable. And of the doable options, he's the best player available. I agree with that. Of the affordable options, he's the best player available, Liam Delap. So it makes sense to do it. And he's a big upgrade on what we have. Here's the challenge that I have for you guys in the chat that I want to ask you. And I want to see if anybody can come up with an answer. I mean it seriously. Tell me your thoughts on this, because I was kind of for this, and I've been I've been a big proponent of the rebuild aspect, of going for young players, of doing all of that. However, the one position that I think it's a mistake in is the 9. Here's my firm belief. Okay, here is my firm belief. No number 9 develops at a big club as first choice, and none have. That is my belief, not just United, but at every single big club. I want you to tell me, is there a single example of a big club, a Bayern, Juventus, Madrid, Barcelona, United, Chelsea, Liverpool, City, any of these big clubs, Arsenal, that have won anything with a striker who came as a development player, a prospect who was not always there or not already there as a player, and became the leader without somebody on top of him. And I would say maybe put it to the last 15 years, because yes, Raul is probably the best example, and that was quite a long time ago, that have won anything significant. That would be my question for you. Yeah, Aguero maybe, right? But let's take a look at something here. I just want to look at this. So Aguero was 22 with a 20 goal. Hold on, listen to this record. Listen to this record for Aguero, okay? He was not a prospect. Here was his record at Atletico before he went to City, right? So unless you're saying at Atletico, by the way. But at City, right? When City bought him, he had a 20-goal season, a 17-goal season, a 12-goal season, and a 20-goal season at Atletico. He was having 20-goal seasons before City. 20-goal seasons before City. Newcastle haven't won anything. I'm not talking about an FA Cup. And Isak was not really the same. Yeah, at Atletico. Did Atletico finished while he was there 4th, 9th, and 7th. They didn't win anything. And he played alongside Forlan, right? Yeah, in La Liga. But he they didn't win anything. Harry Kane never won anything with Tottenham. That's the closest example of a good player, by the way, is Harry Kane. Harry Kane did develop into an incredible player at Tottenham and helped drag them up to relevance, but they were more like a mid-table club that became a lot more relevant, but they still didn't win anything. 0 trophies. Lewandowski, didn't he here, Lewandowski, let's look at his numbers, okay? He was at Dortmund, and they did win a title with him, right? 2 seasons in a row. And that is probably the only example. Was there anyone alongside him at that time? And that was 2009, 16 years. His first 2 years at Dortmund. But who was at Dortmund that season? Dortmund's top goal scorer 2010. Hold on. Because they won it before he was that good, wasn't it? They didn't, like the season before. Who was there with him? But that is probably the best example. Actually, that's a good example. 2010, 2011. Who was there? Because I wanted to know this too. The top scorer they had that season was was Lucas Barrios. Scored 16 goals the first season that he was there. Lucas Barrios scored 16 goals. This is the first season he was there. But Lewandowski became really good in like 1 year, right? The next year, Lewandowski was the top scorer. So that's probably the closest example, but you're talking about literally the the only even close example is like an absolute all-timer, like one of the best strikers in history, right? Nearly everybody, and Barrios was really good too at the time. It is almost never happens, right? And then of course he goes to Bayern and they dominate the league for ages, right? It almost never ever happens that when a player is brought in as a prospect, there isn't a top title. Aguero won the Europa League while Forlan and Falcao were the main men. There you go. Right? So like there was always a top player with them. You understand? Like there was always a top player with them. There was almost never, ever a young player without a mentor at a club that has developed as a prospect striker. Never. It's never happened. So if you want to bring in Delap, again, even Lewandowski, which is the closest, there was at least Barrios there. We don't have anybody. Look at who we're looking at alongside him. Garnacho? Are you kidding me? Højlund? Are we going to buy Dibbling? Van Persie was signed for Arsenal under Thierry Henry. You know? He had time. You know? He had time. He had time to develop. So it's unusual. It's very, very unusual, right? I've never seen it work. You know, saying, oh, Delap, come in, lead the line. You're still a prospect. You still have to develop. By the way, the other players who are with you are Garnacho and Tyler Dibbling. It's not about waiting 4 to 5 years. It's that they don't develop. It doesn't happen. Those players don't develop. You can't develop at a big club without help. You can't. You know? You need that leadership. It's a different world. You need someone who's been there, someone who's done it, someone who's experienced the day after day, playing every game. You come against loaded boxes every game. You come against teams that are playing like it's a cup final. Every game you come against center backs, they're being twice as physical with you, twice as aggressive, play twice as hard, that get in your face. You come into those games with teams with points to prove every single week, and nobody does it. Nobody does it. It just doesn't happen. You know? Players have to make it big. Every big club that's won anything in recent times has bought their striker, right? They've bought them. They've spent a lot of money on them too. And I think Arsenal, again, kind of a big example of why they're going for a striker now. They need the same thing. They have to buy someone who's ready to score goals. That's why they can't win anything. Yeah, I mean, even Raul had players there at Madrid at the time. So that's my biggest concern. I can't think of an example. I would support having somebody. Yeah, look at Ahmad. His development took 4 years away from United. Yeah. I think that you can develop a lot of young players in other positions. But I think you need that mentorship at the 9, because the 9 and the goalkeeper, I think, are the two most difficult positions where you really, really need somebody who is there to teach. You need experience in those positions because they can change the game. They can completely change the game. Who's sitting there teaching Højlund how to have any kind of instinct? Because he has none. He has like literally zero striker instinct. Some of the worst I've seen. I've seen center backs with more striker instinct. Harry Maguire has more striker instinct than Rasmus Højlund. Who's teaching him? Who's helping him? Nobody. Who's going to help Delap when he's faced against 7 guys in the box every week? Nobody. Nobody. There's nobody who will have experienced that at United as a striker. None. It doesn't happen. Bring back Cavani to teach Hoyland. Yeah, I mean, I'd rather have that, you know? You know, but we need a Cavani at this club if we're going to sign a young striker. We need one. We have to have somebody like that. You know, that's a concern to me. That's a serious concern to me. So that's my take on it, because it is so hard to find any examples of this working with a striker. I'm not talking about other positions, because Liverpool did a lot developing young players along the way. But it helped that they got Mo Salah, you know, in there to lead, to score a ton of goals at the same time, right? Without Salah, how would it have gone for Robertson, for Trent, for a lot of these other young players that they had? Probably not the same. So I think it's a difficult one to look at, and it's one that concerns me a bit. If we are just going for Delap. Now, that being said, it feels a little bit, I want to just say one other thing that sticks out in my head here a little. It feels a little bit presumptive. All this talk over Delap right now, when there's other clubs who could buy him. I mean, either we know we've got a deal ready, or we don't. And maybe we're going to do something different. You know, I'm not saying it has to be a distraction. I mean, just going and getting the player that we've decided to get is fine. But no, look, the fact of the matter is, I think we've kind of lined it up. And if we were to get knocked out of the Europa League, for example, we'd probably want to pull the trigger on it right away. But if we can, but you never know. What if he says no? What if Chelsea gazump us again? You know, what if he does all those things? We're not sure. But Delap seems like he's likely the guy, and is definitely the most likely person at this point in time. But yeah, we'll wait and see. But I do have concerns. It's too loud for how they've acted in the market. I agree with that, and that's kind of throws me for a loop a little bit, because I know they like him, but I wonder if it's just a little bit overplayed at the moment. But I also know that, I mean, look, Wilcox was here last summer. He was heavily involved in our recruitment. We didn't hear anything like this, quite honestly. It's a little bit interesting. But all right, let's look at other transfers, okay? I understand that about Osimhen. Like I said, in order to get a move, he's going to have to drop his wages, or he goes to Saudi. That's going to be true of any club that he were to try to join in Europe. Nobody's paying that. Juventus can't afford that. We can't afford that. I don't think any club in England will want to pay those kind of wages. Why do I think Delap is in front of Osimhen? Finance. It's the same reason. It's finance. It's that we would need a few things to go right to be able to try and get Delap, or to get Osimhen. And Delap is Delap is the best available of what is affordable. That is true. And he will improve the team. But I don't believe, my personal fear is he will not develop. He will not develop at United as a prospect. I just don't think he will. That's my concern. Other transfers wise, now I did a video yesterday talking about all of the different priorities, and I kind of want to run through it a little bit here, really brief, while we're just chatting about it, and get mostly just so we can get to the end. Because I talked about the striker and Delap and Osimhen and Ekitike and Sheshko and Mateta, and all of that, yada yada. We've gone through the 10s: Dibbling, Fernandez, Cunha, Dorgelis, and Mbumo. Gone through the midfield: Ederson, Wharton, Job, Hackney, and Stack. Now, it's been really quiet on the midfield, but I do know that they like all 5 of these players. I'm not saying there's other ones. There's not other ones, but there's more of them. Center back, we've had a few names, but not very much Now, Ruben Amorim said in an interview that he did on Sunday that we probably don't need a center back anymore. Now, I still wouldn't be surprised if we got a young center back, but he did say that we probably don't need one anymore. And then goalkeeper, and this is an interesting one, where it keeps kind of being slightly played down, but there's a serious chance that Onana can leave to Saudi. I mean, it is possible. It is definitely possible. United have held talks with. I know for certain have held talks with keepers not that long ago either. Far more recently than you might have thought. But then I wanted to look at this, okay? Because I looked at this and I thought if we end up with like our main signings that we've been linked to or we've talked about, this is you remember that splash. I was saying the same thing when De Gea left. We were looking at keepers. I don't know why this one goes under the radar. We've been talking to keepers. I'm telling you for an absolute fact, on my life, United have been talking to keepers, okay? It is what it is. If we were to sign what they wanted, what we've kind of have linked with right now, hold on one sec, sorry. If we were to sign keeper, if we were to sign people that they were talking about, like we don't really sign a center back, we go for a Delap, we go for Dibbling, we don't have much money, and we get Delap, Dibbling, and a keeper. Might be all the money that we have. This is kind of what the team would look like next year. We'd probably still have Casemiro. It's a backup. We'd probably kind of be getting Kone into the team and all of that. This is what it would look like. And I asked for people's opinions, and I looked at this and I said myself, it's not bad as people are going to call it immediately. It's not bad. We're going to be a lot better than this last season anyway, just because we're improving. Injuries, Ahmad comes back, all of that. Delap is a huge upgrade on... Look, let's be real for a minute. If we had Delap instead of Højlund, we'd probably win at least 4 more games in the Premier League, don't you think? Don't you think we'd be on at least 12 more points right now? This is like bottom line, Kevin. Like, this is like what we can do with the basic free agents and departures. I think this is an 8th place team. That's what I think. I think it's 7th or 8th. I think that's what it could get. Now, is it a team that is young enough that it will still improve? Yes. But it's not good enough. I think that Delap starting and Ahmad back, we'd be on 12, 15 more points right now. Like if Ahmad wasn't injured, we'd probably be on 6 to 8 more points today over the games where we just couldn't pull through a goal. I think about Forest. I think about, Arsenal. I think about City. We'd probably be winning those games if we even just had Ahmad. But you imagine we had Ahmad and Delap, I think we'd probably win 12 to 15 more points with just them coming into the team. And then another season of development under Amorim and all of that, I think would help. So, yeah, I think it's a team that's in the top 8, but I think that it has room to grow, but it's a slow boat because the next summer, if you do this, you're saying we probably are still going to need another 10. We're still going to need 1 or 2 more midfielders. And we probably need better ones. It's not quite enough. And in my opinion, you're going to be back in the market for a striker. And you're going to be saying, we got to sell Højlund. We need to push Delap to a backup and get somebody really good in there. So this is what could happen. bottom line, it could happen. This could be Roger Fernandez or something like this. If Dibbling actually ends up being stuck to that price, then yeah, that won't happen. But if we can get a Dibbling, Roger Fernandez or somebody else for 30-40 million, then fair, then it'll be different. But look, it is mid. But it is really young. I mean, 22, 19, 20, 23, 19, 21, 23, 22. I mean, this is a really, 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 really young team. You have to bear that in mind. It has a lot of room to grow, but it is very young. And you can't really expect it to do that much. I expect it would be, maybe like similar performance-wise to like Arteta. First full season, maybe second one. What was he, 5th or something like that? I think 5th to 7th. I think it's better. I don't think it's nearly as bad as people will act like it is. Obviously, as compared to the standard of trying to win a league, is it there? Of course not. Of course it isn't. Of course it isn't. But it's not good enough. Then I looked at, what if we picked the options that I wanted on that list that I still think are realistic? I think this is a significantly and immediately better team. Now, is it doable? No. Unless we make Champions League, or unless, you move Garnacho out of here for money, or you move Casemiro out of here and you sell and buy players and bring them in. I think this is a much better team. And it's not that much more money to get it done. I mean, Osimhen, it's actually probably less because the report said Osimhen's available for 55 million. It's 40 million. So you're 15 million in difference there. Your whatever is the same at the cost of the 10. Now, it doesn't have to be Dorgelis. I like Dorgelis a lot. It could still be Dibbling. It could still be Roger Fernandez. It could still be, one of these other players. You know what I mean? I would 1,000,000% go and get Hackney. You guys who don't like the midfield, who want a progressive player, fine. Then Hayden Hackney is the way. He is everything that we could need in the midfield, and I think he will make any partner who can just defend look better because he is so good on the ball and he's good out of possession. He's really, really strong in every facet of his game. He's so, so good and available for such a good price. If we could get a player like him, you just do it. You got to do it, okay? And then I think that in the back line, Braithwaite, it doesn't have to be Braithwaite, but I really like Braithwaite. I think he's improved so much this season. I think he has grown so much this season from in terms of rounding out his game. When you look at him statistically in the progressions and the passing and all of that, he's the most two-footed center back in the league. He's pacey, he's aggressive, he's physical, all of that. Okay, I like him a lot. I'm not saying you can't get other center backs, but I think if you have Braithwaite and Euro running the channels, you have a really, really good defense. And you have so much pace back there, it's going to be really, really hard to beat. And I think he's coming along a lot as a passer, as a carrier of the ball as well. And then I really like the idea of Lamens, who United have been linked to as a keeper. I think it's so hard to judge keepers. I can't say I've watched a bunch of him or something like that. That'd be Lyon. But I think he's a much better prospect in terms of a keeper. I think maybe better than a prospect at this stage, but a good keeper. But I look at that and I think, okay, you could go, you're talking about 15 million more, same price, a little bit of money here, invest the 25 million there, and then go spend 30, 40 at a center, 40 at a center back. I don't care. 40, 50, it doesn't matter to me. There's maybe other options, could you get Hincapi? Are there other people out there you could get? Sure. I'm not saying it has to be Braithwaite, but I'm saying getting someone really tops of his quality that's left-footed, who's ready right now, who's physical and fast, could make a big difference. So it's not that much more money. And if we win the Champions League, or we're capable of making a big sale in Casemiro or Garnacho, then just do it. The reason as well that I would go for a center back now is Maguire will probably leave at the end of next season. And, between him and De Ligt, I think that they do have a lot of knocks. right? Between him and Delict, I think they get a lot of little injuries, a lot of little things. And I want another really good option that could play in the center. I think Braithwaite could play in the middle of a three as well, for what it's worth. I think he could also, because he's very two-footed, so he can go both directions really well. And I think he'd be fine in that kind of position too. And he's got a lot of height, good aerial win rate to replace like some of what we miss from Maguire at times when he's not there. So things like that. Yes, you could go Cherki up here too. We just haven't had solid links to him, but you could definitely go Cherki in this position. I would take the risk on Cherki as well. We have Euro, yes, but then you lose him in the channels. And he's so good and pacey, and he's so good running back in the channels and making those last-ditch tackles that you need sometimes. So I think this team, I think is easily a Champions League qualification team. I think it's easily a Champions League qualification team, and it's still quite young. You know, it's still quite young. Young. Like, it's still young, but it has leadership where it matters. Goal scoring, defensive, ability between these two mid center backs. It has a good spine of experience in Osimhen, Bruno, and De Ligt and Maguire. And I think that matters. I think that really, really matters as well, that you get that spine of confidence. You get that spine of experience. So, I like it. I think it would be so much better, than the alternative. I mean, I want to know your guys' thoughts on this. I mean, I'm sure everybody likes this team more, okay, for what it's worth. But I was still trying to keep it realistic. So like Chevalier, I think he'd cost 50 million, and I don't think we can get him, as an example on the keeper front. I think there's players we can't get, in these positions. So, like I didn't put Cunha in here because I think getting Osimhen and Cunha is literally impossible. Literally impossible. I think it is. I think it's just impossible. I think that you could take this team and go Delap and Cunha if you can stump up a little bit more money. And that might help with some of this experience aspect. Because then you do have a little bit more experience. That being said, I have a lot of concerns over Cunha because he's finishing too well right now. If you look at his numbers, he's finishing so far above his XG, I think it's impossible to sustain. That worries me a little bit. That does worry me a little bit. But no, I really do think we need a center back. I think it's really, like, here's the issue, guys, right? Let's say we don't sign a center back. Who do you have? You have De Ligt, Maguire, Yoro, Mazraoui, and Aiden Heaven, all right, to start the season. That's 3 positions. You've got Aiden Heaven, who's played 1 start and who's injured. You've got Maguire, who cannot be relied on for 20 games a year. For 10, 15 games a year. You've got Mazraoui's not really a center back, but who is good. You've got Lenny Yoro, who's very young. And you've got, De Ligt. So you're going to be asking Yoro, De Ligt, and Heaven to start so many games. It doesn't have to be Braithwaite. My point is, I think we need to get somebody who's ready to step in one of the wide center back positions. And who's athletic, who can run the channels, and who is very good in ball progression as well. That's what we need. I really think it'll be a mistake if we don't get somebody for that. I think we'll end up regretting it, because I think we'll end up, with just too much pressure on Yoro, on Heaven, and I think that's not going to work. I think it'll hurt them in the long run, and I think it'll be all of that. So it could be a young one. It could be somebody else. Luke Shaw, I'm your man. You know what? You're not wrong. I did forget about Luke Shaw, but that's not my fault. Okay. That's not my fault. How fit, because obviously he can step into this left center back thing. He's pacey, he can run the channels, and he can progress the ball. And after his hamstring's gone in 5 minutes, we'll be back in the same situation. So, yeah. James, for clarity, does realistic lineup assume Rashford is sold? It does. It does. It totally does. Yeah, Martinez, I'm not expecting him to be the same player when he comes back. He already has issues with pace in the channels. And after another serious injury, I just don't think he can be. And I don't think he'll be back till the turn of the year, honestly. And I just don't think he can do it when he comes back. I think he'll be an option in some games, but not someone we can rely on. And there's already some downsides there, right? But yeah, it does assume that Rashford is sold. We'll see about that. But yeah, anyway, I was trying to keep it realistic. That's why I pick certain players like Dorgelis and Hackney who are affordable when you're going for an Osimhen, because I didn't want it to be super expensive. But look, I think you'd still require Champions League or the sale of Casemiro or Garnacho to make this happen. Something similar to this. Again, you could change the names here. I really like Braithwaite. You could pick a different center back. It's totally fine. But I think that if you were to get like Osimhen and Hackney in, it would solve the vast majority of problems that we have with the team right now. So, yeah. And then obviously as well, in either scenario, Mentato could come over here next season and Ahmad can move up into the 10s as well, which is why, again, I haven't put an enormous amount of money there. I'd rather spend it on a striker and go slightly cheaper. And that way you can have Ahmad and Bruno up here with Xerxes and Mount and all of that. So we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, that's what I think there. There's a lot of names obviously possible here, and we're gonna have to see where it goes. Because we haven't really heard much beyond the striker and the 10s, and even then, it's kind of situational just because of the budget. In terms of youth chances, obviously we're seeing that Moorhouse, Kukonki, and Kamason are all with the first team now and going to Europa League. Now, Kamason is still playing with the under-18s, if I'm not mistaken. And someone asked me why is Mentato not there yet? And I think that's a good question. I want to kind of just explain some of the thinking here, because we've been kind of rotating through. Hold on, I want to show you something, because I've heard this question a lot about throwing Ahmad at wingback, and I said this before Amarim came in, which is you gotta stop thinking of wingback as like some penalty position. Okay, it's not a penalty to play at wingback. It is a good thing. Ahmad played at wingback. Ipswich, 1 assist, wingback. Everton, 2 assists, wingback. Forest, 1 assist, wingback. Southampton, hat trick, wingback. Did you know 1, 2, 4, 5, 8. 8 out of his 11 goals and assists have come from wingback. 8 out of his 11 goals and assists have come from games he started at wingback under Amarim in the Premier League. So I think he's a better player for the wingback because it allows him to sit wide, get one-on-one, and drive into the box, and work and do a bit more magic. Okay, here, I'll pull it up for you if you want to see it. Here, wingback. Sorry, that's not. It starts here. RM is when he's playing wingback. Okay, these are the games he was selected at wingback. Wingback. He played against City as a winger. Now he scored his goal later on after the game changed. Regardless, but still, fair enough. He scored against Liverpool in the front three. He scored a hat trick against Southampton as a wingback. Then he moved into wingback, into the forward positions. You can see, look, 3 games in the forward positions, no goals. 3 games in the forward positions, no goals. He is better as a wingback. He contributes more, a lot more, objectively as a wingback than he does as a forward. Because he gets into better positions and better situations as a wingback. I actually think he's ideal for it. Now, we need better 10s, mind you, but you can see that he's a much better player at wingback. Not better player, because that's not the point. The point is the wingers get into so many attacking situations when they're good. And by wingers, I mean wingbacks. They get into so many attacking situations when they're good and they understand the system. Ahmad gets it, and it allows him to get himself isolated. He also helps a lot more in build-up as a wingback. So I really like him as a wingback. He's also left-footed, which means it fits Amarim's system a bit more. That's why I push him to wingback, because I think he's the best wingback we have at the club right now for that right side. Yeah, I think he's the best fit for that. I think in the 10s role, you want a bit more correct. I know it's tricky. Like, just call the wingbacks wingers, right? But like, you can sign a winger to be a 10 also. It kind of just depends on their traits. I think in the 10s role, you want someone direct and pacey. But yeah, this is wingback's job to play open and get involved with the 10. Also left-footed. Left foot is fundamental. Right, exactly, Ricardo. I totally. So I actually think he contributes a lot more as a wingback. I think he contributes a lot more as a wingback because he helps the team more positionally, because we don't have, other players there. So it's an interesting dynamic, but when you look at the numbers, yeah, he has in wingback games, he's played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games he played in the Premier League at wingback, 8 goals and assists. Incredible. Under Amarim, he played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games as a 10, and he only has 3 goals and assists. So you can see the difference. It's massive when he plays that wingback, because he's just more ideal there. Then it would make even more sense to get a Turkey now. Agreed. Well, that's why I want a direct player. That's why I picked like Dorgelis, for example. Dorgelis is a classic 10 for Amarim. He's really good dribbling. He's physical. He's pacey. And he has a really good shot on him. And he can play both sides quite well. He can just kind of float into a front 3 that mixes together. I like Dorgelis for that. He's a bit more direct. But regardless, there's other options too. Turkey would be really good for the more creative type of player who would also fit in those kinds of positions. What happens to Dalot? He's a super reliable player, and I think that he's actually played well recently. And he's actually played well recently, and I think he's somebody you keep in the squad, because there's times maybe you do want to move Ahmad to the 10 and you want to play, Dalot at right back. It's always possible. You're correct completely as well that when he was in the 10, we didn't have a good right wing back. So the analysis, is missing that, but you can't argue with the fact that he got 8 and 5. You can't, that's good enough that you just would say that's just great. Let's just keep doing that. You know what I mean? His performances were good enough at right wing back that I wouldn't take him out of that position. Just in a vacuum, they were good enough. So, that's that. I don't disagree that if there was a better right wing back, maybe it would look different. But I think he was just so good at wing back that why change it? Why overthink it? You know what I mean? We don't have to overthink it. But yeah, so in youth chances, again, Kukonki, Moorhouse, and Kamason all getting the step up. And like I said, someone's asking me why not Mentato at this point in time. And you have to bear in mind that we're rotating a lot of players from the youth level now, making the squad. You know what I mean? Getting into the squad, getting into the first team, traveling a bit, doing some training, all of that kind of stuff. And I think that the important thing to note here is why they're doing some of this. Are these players going to play in the Europa League? No, they're not. They're not going to play in the Europa League. Okay. The under-21s play on Friday too, right? So, you take, for example, Mentato. Well, they want him to keep playing because he's just come back. He's building fitness. He's playing at the under-21s regularly now. They want him to keep playing with the youth team. Like, just keep playing, getting minutes, because they need to see more of him. Kukonki and Kamason will go back with the under-18s, and so I think they have a few more days till the under-18s play again. But regardless, it's rotating a lot of these young players into first-team environments, getting first-team experiences, which is good for them. But it's also, in many instances, to get them in the window for a loan, for a sale, to get other clubs looking at him saying, yeah, that's a player that's got experience in the first-team environment. Because it's good to be a good young player. But when a team, like, you want to loan a player to the championship, or you want to loan a player to a different club to develop more, they want to look at players who also have some experience in a first-team environment. They want to look at players and say, yeah, could they step into our first team, or is it going to be like shell shock when we loan them in? Getting them into the first team environments, getting them on, around the squad, getting them in the team for those big nights, those make a difference in the training and such, where clubs look at that and say, okay, yeah, we're ready. Yes, we can, we can take that player and say he's not going to flounder instantly. He's experienced the first team. He's experienced that, and that makes him more available for a loan. So there's a lot of reasons to do all of that. When Mantato starts getting into the first team, he will probably stay there, because he's probably not a player who's going to go on loan. He's a player that once he steps up and he gets a debut and gets a chance after he's built his fitness, after he's played more games, after all of that, he probably will just stay there and become a part of the first team squad long term. Kukonki needs more time. I don't think he will stay with the first team. He will get more time. There's not going to be, there's too many players for his position too at the moment. As when Heaven and such come back, Kukonki needs to keep playing with the under-18s. He has to get game time to keep developing properly. He has to get game time. So that's what's going on there, and it's good. It's great. We'll see. It's definitely great. So again, back to this kind of Onana Matic thing, just to mention it again. Obviously, if you missed it, kind of having the laugh about it at the beginning. Personally, I support it. Personally, I rate it. I think that at this stage in time, look, we're going into a big European night. No matter how you feel about any of our players, right now, we got to back everybody. Right now, we got to back everybody, and I like the fight. I like the, making a mentality, of fight, and you have to think that, the players in the team are gonna want to fight for Onana, if you get what I'm saying. Like, you know what I mean by that? It's not just an individual thing. The players in the team, the other players in the club, are going to want to battle for their teammate. You get what I'm saying? So it can spur on your team too, to come together a bit, to fight, to want to be, if they like Onana. But I think he's a pretty likable person, actually. And to kind of come together on this, and that's what we need. We need bite. I think to beat teams like Lyon, we need bite. We cannot be soft. We have to hit them hard. We have to hit them in a way that you look at that Sociedad game and think they couldn't deal with us physically. We hit them hard. If we played soft, if we played scared, if we played, slow, they would take us apart technically. And I think Lyon are a similar team to that. We have to hit them hard. And we have to really go for them. So maybe this will help spur them on. Now, that being said, this will become a landmark for Onana's career here at United, which has been spotted, no doubt. But when you start doing comments and saying things like that publicly, which I'm for, you have to perform. If you don't, it can be really hard to come back from for a player, and I really don't want that to happen. If he does perform, I think it'll bring a lot of confidence to him, and I think it'll make him much more liked by the fan base at this point in time. If we're talking on Sunday, Monday next week, or I guess after the second leg, Friday, and we've made it through, we've beat Lyon and he's done well, then we're going to be looking and saying, fuck yeah, great. He set the tone, you know what I mean, for the team and spurred it on. And then we'll look at it through a different light. If he makes mistakes, then not so much, right? But if he does perform well with this and we go through, I think there'll be a lot of praise for Onana. And I think it can spur the team to be confident and everything. So we'll see what happened. We will see what happens with that. But I'm kind of for it. I am. These negative comments could be a weapon for United. Here at Sporting, RA said, when one player goes, we all go. Right. Sure. Yep. So we'll see where it goes, but I kind of support it as well too. That being said, if it goes poorly, well, he might just go to Saudi this summer, and that option is on the table for him. So, there's people around United that think he will go to Saudi this summer. So I guess we will see what happens. But there might be a way out for him if it goes poorly, but I would much prefer it doesn't go poorly either, but there is a way out. There is a way out of this situation for him in the long term if he costs us here. So yeah, that's everything. Anything else anybody wants to yap about? I'm trying to think if there's anything else I haven't talked about recently. Or that I've failed to mention or missed out or anything like that. Let's see. I dropped a few little hints here if you go watch the back, but we'll do this. Yeah, about Turkey. I really like Turkey. It's just, I really like Turkey. I think he's worth a gamble because he's not expensive, because he could be an insane player. What do you think about United doing a lot of travel in preseason? I don't really care. I don't think it matters. They'll travel, then they'll go off on holiday, then they'll come to the U.S. Once they're in the U.S., I don't think it's a big deal. They're going to be based in Chicago, all of that. How many youngsters will be loaned and sold? A fair few. A lot of these ones who are getting closer to the first team, their intention, Moorhouse, Fletcher, I think there's a fair few of them. Have I been to Golden? Yeah, I actually used to work in Golden for about 4 years. I had an office in Golden. It's a really cool little place. Yep, Golden is great, and the Coors factory there, doing the little tour, it's always fun. So for some reason, the beer tastes better when you get that little sample in the factory, even though it's probably not even like different to the one you're getting out of the can. But that's the Coors tour is always like a popular thing to just go for fun. But yeah, Golden is cool. Golden is really nice. There was news regarding a DM from Mali, same club where we signed Kone. Yes. That's what you mentioned about unknown signing yesterday. Yes, my personal opinion is that we will very likely sign an unknown player in a position of either center back or midfield or both. Very likely. I think it's more likely one we haven't heard yet than a name we have heard, in my opinion, in both of those positions if we make a signing. Any updates from the PSG youth players who are leaving? Yeah, they're, because there was the link that Sully mentioned, which was that young winger, right? And I know for a fact I had a conversation with somebody about getting someone from PSG's academy like 6 months ago, and it leads me to believe that is really possible. Umar Kamara is the name, right? I know I had a conversation. I cannot for the life of me remember the specifics and even where or when I had it, but I know I had a conversation with someone a while back, like that we would be trying to get someone from PSG's academy. And I cannot for the life of me remember the specifics of it, but because I try not to talk too much on the like when it comes to young youth players and things, I try not to like I don't like tend to report too much outside of like when they're making their way into the first team and stuff, but yeah, I just don't remember. But I know I had that conversation, so when that came out, I was like, I think that's true. I think that's a real possibility. I think that's something they've been looking at for a while. Check MUFC Napoli Garnacho. Is it a good source or is it like not being insulting here, but is it a good source? 86 Longo. Oh. Napoli are considering making a new contact with Manchester United for Garnacho. United have lowered their price to 50 million euros, a price within reach. Okay, it's a decent source. It's not a bad source. Look, as I've said many times, it's more likely that Garnacho leaves than Kobbie Mainoo. And if Napoli are coming back in for him, I think United would sell him this summer. It gives us a lot of room to work in the market if we get that kind of money. A lot of room to work. Now, I don't think we'll go spend an extra 150 million, but obviously it does open the door to something bigger. Cunha or Mbumo or Osimhen or something like that. Obviously, it does open the door. The source was 86 Longo, 86_Longo. That's Daniel Longo. He's decent for Italian reports. He is decent for Italian reports. I would put him around the middle on Italian reports, if I'm not mistaken. Garnacho has not helped his valuation. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we can sell for more. And I think the point of it is, would you rather stick to the price or can you do a lot more for 50 million in profit? You know what I mean? I think we could do a lot more with the team for 50 million euros. When you look at the profit that gives us, you could do things in the market no one can dream of. But you know, you could do a lot more to improve the team with that. It would like the value of keeping him versus 50 million euros. You'd take the 50 million in a heartbeat. Did you see that clip of Spain talking about stopping Mainoo? Yeah. No, I know, Stuart. That was the joke, right? Yeah, that was the joke. So yeah, it's an interesting one, but I think there's a real possibility. The danger is, right, if you don't sell him and you go into next season with someone over him and he's a backup, one, he's going to be unhappy. He's always unhappy when he's not starting. Two, you could have his value diminish then, and then you end up getting less and less for him later. James, number 2. I told you I was gonna be near the bottom with Riddy by the end of it. I think section 1 was good. Section 2 was terrible for me, and I got it all backwards. I didn't think of it in the right way round. I thought of it. I was thinking more recent, and I was like, God damn, I didn't even follow the transfers under Van Gaal, and you know, how many points lower was I? Probably a lot, huh? I might still make the playoff. How many points lower was I? Because I got, what, 14 or something? My second section was absolutely terrible. I think he's better as a backup too, by the way. But he doesn't. She doubled it. Yeah, I'm screwed. Story comes out from The Guardian. Well, this kind of would explain why Delap has become even more wantable. Clause falls to 30 million if Ipswich are relegated. Chelsea and Manchester United are in a tussle for Liam Delap, whose release clause can be revealed to fall to 30 million in the event of Ipswich being relegated from the Premier League. United have Delap high on a short list that includes Victor Gyökeres, Hugo Ekitike, and Victor Osimhen. There's your mention of Osimhen again. I'm telling you, he's on there. Excuse me. One of the things I don't like, Chelsea are heavily in the running and will have a chance to watch Delap when they host Ipswich on Sunday. Chelsea are heavily in the running. When you read that article, it's a little bit, her specialist subject was Ten Hag's tenure and scored 16. I should have picked something like that because I remember every awful thing Ten Hag did from the last 3 years. So I should have picked something better. I should have shortened the time frame. I got screwed on that. You screwed me on that. No, I'm just kidding. Here's the thing, right? When you read the article, what it sounds like is, it says, is understood suitors who looked to buying Delap were informed of the need to meet specific financial and contractual conditions during talks over a deal. Interested parties were told they would have to come to the table and wait for the player to decide on his destination. I'm not feeling that, man. I'm not feeling that. I feel like we're just gonna... It's Steinberg with Ames and Jamie Jackson at the guard. Steinberg's very good for Chelsea, okay? I'm a little concerned about that. From a perspective of it coming from the Chelsea side, I'm a little concerned about it. And I think that is a serious chance he goes to Chelsea. I mean, when you look at the article, Chelsea seemed pretty strongly in there, and basically both clubs are going to have to present their case, and he's going to pick. We could be in the woods on this. We could push our case forward, and Chelsea could just get him because they're going to have fucking Europe next year. And, you know, like, they could just take him. But... yeah, if we sell Garnacho, then we should just go for Osimhen. And it reads Chelsea's player but United interested. Yeah, it reads like Chelsea's target, but that's from a Chelsea journalist, so it kind of makes sense. Enzo Maresca wants him badly. Consider the type of player who chooses Chelsea these days. Maybe. Would Delap go to Chelsea? Isn't there a lot of competition there? I don't know. It depends, right, on what's on offer. I guess we'll see. I come away from that thinking Chelsea are much more in it than I did before. So now I'm like, maybe we can't even get him. You know what I mean? Maybe this... Wait, what if... See, remember at the beginning of this video, I said, it's a little bit odd to me how strongly we're being mentioned. Are we baiting Chelsea in the same way that, you know, because like we got a lot of talk of Quenda and then Chelsea bought him. Have we baited them? Have we baited them here by knowing that they're going to do the same thing? Have we baited them with these reports, with this briefing last week? Have we baited Chelsea? Have we baited Chelsea into buying a player we don't want because we have a better target? Just think about it. Just think about it. Have we baited Chelsea? I think we baited Chelsea. That's my completely no reason to believe it stance at this point in time. We have baited Chelsea into buying Liam Delap, and we are going to get somebody else. We baited them. They just want every player. But I agree, Amy. But then why would we brief it so much, so heavily? Why would we brief it so heavily and have it be all out there when we know Chelsea are going to go for him if we do that? I'm telling you. We're gonna Listen. No. Hold on a second. Think about it. Who was at Man City when they did this with Maguire and Fred to us? Omar Barada. Man City did this to us. Man City did this to us when Omar Barada was there. They kept doing it. We were getting citied on this. Right? Where they wanted Maguire, they wanted Fred, and then we bought both of them. Omar Barada was there. Alexis Sanchez as well. Omar Barada was there. Ronaldo too. Four times Omar did this to us. Are we doing it to Chelsea? Is Omar doing to Chelsea what he did to us? 4 times. It's all coming together. This is it. These are the conspiracies I'm here for. This is why they used to call us what was it? The QAnon of United or something like that. Like a few years back, I thought that was a hilarious insult about Muppeteers and myself. It was like we were like the QAnon of United. These are the conspiracies I'm here for. Okay, so hey, I think about it. There's something in this. Maybe we baited them. Maybe we did. We'll see. All right. I'm gonna leave it there. I gotta get to work. I will see you all later. Okay. We're baiting Chelsea to buy Delap. Then we buy whom? We buy Osimhen because Napoli are now back in for Garnacho. Done deal, man. Done deal. That's it. It's happening. Why do I feel like I end up with cover? Master Baiter confirmed. No, wait. Shit. Yeah, all right. We'll see you. I'll see you guys later, okay? I'll leave you with that thought. Think about it. Have a ponder. Maybe there's more going on than meets the eye, okay? Maybe there's more going on than meets the eye, all right? Something that can support your idea. Quenda stays at Sporting for another season. If United wanted him, it would be now. Good point. Demonetized. Wait, no. I'm good. Take it